Hello YouTubers, it is a pleasure to see your smiley faces again, and here I am back today with yet another episode, and today we're gonna be talking about the Leica M9. I'm gonna tell you why I went back to this model after having had the M240 and the M8. I'm gonna tell you what my views are on this camera, what this camera is good for, what this camera is bad for, the pros and the cons, and we're gonna be diving right into it. Let's do it. All right, so today we are going to be talking about the Leica M9. There's a few things I want to go over on this camera. I want to tell you why this camera got me back into that type of photography that you do with a Leica camera or, well, a rangefinder camera. And the reason why I had the M240, I sold it, as well as the M8, and why the M9 is now my go-for Leica camera for street photography, for family shots, and also sometimes a little bit for weddings. Okay, cool. So the first point that I want to go over is the loud shutter. So the shutter is actually very loud, not as loud as the M8 if I don't air. I used to have an M8 that I sold last year, but the shutter of the M9 is very loud compared to an M240 or compared to an M10, M10D, and so forth. Here we're gonna take a photo so I can show you the sound of it. Here we go. There you go. Very dark, and the settings, we're having the shutter open for a long time, but that's basically the sound that it makes. It is quite a loud sound. Okay, so there's pros and cons on this. There's a little story on this. In this photo right here, I was taking this photo during street photography last week, and there's this bunch of people that were about to go through in front of a little shop, a little store. I knew they were gonna go through and they were not looking. So I was all ready, all set, and then this couple, they were in their 50s or 60s, you know, they go through, and then I take the photo and it makes this loud shutter noise. And then I just stay in position, and they go by and they turn around, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, I didn't hear you were taking a photo. So, and you know, they were laughing. I was like, oh, no, it's okay, don't worry, it's all good. They didn't know that I was planning on taking them in the photo. That's what I wanted. But they heard the shutter, and I don't know, they kind of realized that they were in the photo and that it was probably a film camera, because it looks like a film camera. And so it created that interaction with other people, which was great, you know, so that could be a pro. The other pro is I went back to this one rather than the M240, M10, because of that noise. I really like the loud shutter noise. I think it's a pro. It's something that gives me a little bit of nostalgia on the use of cameras, on the use of, you know, back in the day you had that actual noise sound that you don't find that much anymore in the modern cameras. It's all about stealth and being quiet and not making any noise for street photography. But I think it adds to the challenge of being a street photographer, and then if people notice, well, they did. So that's that. Next point is parallax. So parallax is not being handled by this camera. I know that the M240, the M10, and so on do handle the parallax, also because the lines that you see in the metering inside are LED lines in the M10 and the M240, rather than lines that come through this little window up here. So the M8 and M9, and before that M6 and so forth, they had to use the light that comes through here. So when you focus, you do focus using the lens, but then when you look here, it's not what you're gonna get. What you see is not what you're gonna get. So you need to compensate a little bit. That's what I do. For example, with my Fuji Instax, I usually try or tend to move the lens a little bit based on what I'm seeing, so that I can actually take the photo that way and it comes out good. So just think with that. In terms of body, the other reason why I came back to the M9 is because the M240 is heavy, cumbersome. There's a lot of functions like video and things like that I actually don't like. I never liked that, so that's one of the reasons why I sold it. It takes beautiful photos like the M10. They're very similar, but the M10 actually went back to this slimmer design like the M6, and the cameras, the original Leicas. So the M9 is thinner than the M240, and that's something I really appreciate. I think it's very handy, it's very easy to take in your hand, and then it's a camera that I would take with me rather than leaving it at home like I did many times with the M240, because it was just too fat and too big. I remember going to Greece with it, going to the streets, and it was just too heavy, too annoying. On paper, it's not that much heavier and that much bigger, but when you have it in your hands, being that it's all brass and solid metal and so forth, you know, it does make a difference. That's the reason why the M9 for me is a better camera than the M240. Okay, next point I want to bring up is the sensor. So this guy is the last Leica camera that has a CCD sensor versus the CMOS that we now find in the M240 and M10. So the CMOS sensor is faster, it is better from many aspects, less energy, it needs less power, it's faster, it's better, it's all that. But one thing is that the CCD sensor, to me at least, takes better color pictures than the CMOS. Here I'm posting a couple photos here, so they're a bit dumb photos, but it's just to show you how the colors render. These photos are taken straight out of the camera, and you can see how they look like an old Kodak type of photo. Because the CCD sensor that's in the M9 was adjusted and made to look a little bit like the Kodak films back in the day. So it has something more organic, at least in my opinion. You can have your own. I'm not saying the latest Leica cameras are not good. On the contrary, they're amazing. But that's one thing that if you compare them side by side, maybe you will not notice something. But I personally look at those photos and I go, whoa, that's a damn awesome reproduction of what was there. To me, the colors are true colors based on what was in the scene when I took the photo. They're not over-processed, they're not a little bit different, they're not, you know, it has a very good color science, I think. And that's really something important to me, to have you know, fidelity in the colors that will come out. So that's why, another reason why the M9 is actually a great camera to me. So there you go. Okay, autonomy wise. So in terms of autonomy, this camera is pretty good. I mean, the battery does last quite some time. I did shoot, I think 350 shots with this battery. It's not a brand new battery, but it does last enough. I mean, I turn it off every time I'm done shooting, taking a photo. It's a reflex coming from Fuji. All my Fuji cameras, I do the same. My X-T2s, every time I'm done taking a photo, I turn it off. It became a reflex to save battery. So this one does last pretty well. I don't have anything to complain about. It doesn't last as well as the M240, which has a bigger battery, and it's actually a beast. I remember I could go in the cold weather, I wouldn't have any problems, minus 16 Celsius once, and didn't bother the camera that much. So there you go. Next topic. Okay, one camera that I would love, that would be my dream camera to have, is the M10 D. For those that don't know, is the Leica M10 that you can connect via Wi-Fi to your phone, but that doesn't have a screen. Therefore, when you take photos, you kind of have to trust your instinct. Either you go full on manual, which is for, you know, like purists and like hardcore photographers that know what they're talking about, or that want to learn and push their limits even more, like further. Or you could go in auto mode, and your photos should be pretty good. And in case you want to see them, you can connect your phone via Wi-Fi, and then you can, you know, look into it, download the photos, take them again, whatever. So I would really like that camera because it gives me that sense and that feel of old film camera. Compared to the cameras nowadays that have big ass screens with awesome resolution, I don't know how many pixels, this and that, and it's great. I would prefer a camera that is digital but with no screen. So it's a little bit of a best of both worlds. So this one has a shitty ass, sorry, excuse my French, but it has a disgusting screen that, like, this screen is just a joke. Okay, this camera is only 10 years old. I mean, it's not even that old, but it is a joke. It's like the M8. These screens are garbage. Now, the pro with having such a bad screen is that you don't depend on your screen as much, and you don't start chimping, you know, and just, you know, taking photo looking, and having the exact having the exact reproduction of what you just took. But you look at the screen, first of all, there's like a 10-second waiting time to see your photo sharp, because it has to process the photo, so it's all blurry. That's the first thing, it's blurry. And then you can see you can see your exposure. You can see if it's overexposed, underexposed, or if it's fine. At least you can use it for that purpose, which is pretty much what I use it for. And you can also see the composition. You can see if you're totally off. At first I was totally off because of the parallax. I had to get used to it again. And now my photos are framed properly. So it's not so much of a deal breaker. So the screen is, in my opinion, not a deal breaker at all. However, if to you having a great, awesome screen that shows you, you know, all the infos and sharp and high resolution contrast, blah, 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 then that's not gonna cut it. Yeah, there you go. The strap. So strap wise, I'm using a Leica strap that I bought the other day at a Leica authorized reseller. So this strap is extremely resistant. Like, this is like amazing. It's fat and resistant. The links here are made of Italian leather. It says Leica here. So that's a strap that I paid, I think, 80 bucks, brand new. If you wanna, I mean, if you invest that much money into a camera like this, you should get a strap that to you works fine. Normally when I do weddings with my Fuji X-T2s and X100F, I do use the Peak Design straps, so I can, you know, change them, interchange, and take a smaller wrap just for the, you know, for the wrist, or take a strap for my neck, or have two straps. Anyway, they have to be comfortable, they have to hold, and they have to be very flexible to me. When I go take photos with this guy here, the M9, it's more street photography, or it's just for leisure, pleasure, and you name it. So I want a strap that first of all, that looks good, that looks vintage type of, you know, type of feel. I want a strap that will hold forever. Like these links here, man, if you're able, like, if you manage to break this, dude, like, I'm sure Leica would gladly give you a brand new strap for free and repair your camera, because they're actually very, very strong links. And you want a strap that that will hold your gear, because for the price you pay for such a camera, even secondhand nowadays, about 2Gs, 2200, you do want a camera that holds. You do want a strap that's able to hold that weight. Okay, there you go. Now in terms of photos, I'm gonna be posting some photos that I took recently. Today I took some photos with animals, with my family. The other day I did some street photography, and then we had a little barbecue with friends and so on, a little, you know, outing. Took photos of that too. I'm gonna post some of them at the end of the video, so you can have an idea of the quality. I did have the M10 a couple of weeks ago. I compared the two as an overall thing. As you know, I'm not here to talk specs. I'm not here to do an in-depth, you know, review as to what pixel and so forth. But in terms of overall quality of, you know, black and white color and the out of the camera photograph, I believe that the M9 and M10 are not that different. I mean, we're talking in terms of pixels, we're talking 18 compared to 24. It's a difference of 6 megapixels. That's literally no difference. And unless you're into printing like I do for weddings, that's literally no difference. So quality of the image, it's pretty much the same. It's just the speed, the processing speed, the quality of the screen, the size, and, you know, those aesthetics differences that will make a difference between the two. Okay, great. So I'm getting to the end of this short review of the Leica M9. I have a Voigtlander on it f1.1. Here's the photo, just for the fun. Here we go, that's me. It's a friend who took it with this lens and this camera. I just touched up a tiny bit the exposure saturation, lowered the blacks and the whites, but that's pretty much how the photo came out of the camera. You can see how awesome the bokeh looks on this photo. I think that the background blurs perfectly. It's just very creamy and awesome. I mean, it's not a Leica lens, but I think it does a great job. So I do recommend this lens. It's a 50mm Voigtlander f1.1. A friend of mine lended it to me so I can test it, and I'm really enjoying it, by the way. I'm more of a 35mm shooter, but 50 in this case actually works pretty well. You need to readapt a little bit, but it works great. Okay, cool. So thanks a lot for stopping by. I will remind you, well, actually, I'm not gonna remind you because I know you are not forgetting. I'm gonna ask you, in case you did not subscribe yet, do click that subscribe button if you like my videos. Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. That's an indicator for me to know if I'm doing better or worse. I hope I'm doing better, but double tap the thumbs down if you didn't like this video. And if you have any question, let me know, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think about the M9. Are you still using it? Do you still think it's a camera that can be used in 2019? And I see you in the next video, like always. Cheers, take care.